The man who donated every day and died smiling, he had nothing. Lived in a tiny apartment, worked minimum wage, but every single day for 40 years, he gave something away. When he died, they found something in his room that will change how you see generosity forever. And the smile on his face, the doctor said they'd never seen anything like it. This is the story of how giving creates the only wealth that matters. His name was Robert Chen, a 68-year-old janitor at Lincoln Elementary School. Every morning at 5 a.m., Robert would stop at the corner bakery, buy day-old bread with his own money, and feed the homeless man who slept behind the dumpster. "Morning, Frank," he'd say gently. "Buddha blessed me with food today. Let me share Buddha's blessing with you." The bakery owner, Mrs. Martinez, watched this ritual for years. "Robert, you barely make enough to survive. Why do you do this?" Robert smiled. "Dear Buddha taught that happiness comes not from what we keep, but from what we give away. Frank needs food. I need purpose. We help each other." But Robert's giving didn't stop there. Every payday, he would put $5 in an envelope, walk to the children's hospital, and leave it at the donation box. $5 from a man who ate ramen noodles for dinner most nights. The hospital receptionist noticed him once. "Sir, you don't have to give every week. We know money is tight." Robert shook his head. "Buddha gives me breath every day. This is how I say thank you." When students at his school lost lunch money, Robert would quietly slip them a few dollars. "Don't tell anyone," he'd whisper. "Just remember to help someone else someday." When teachers needed supplies they couldn't afford, Robert would somehow find a way. Used books from thrift stores, pencils bought with coupon savings, construction paper purchased with his grocery money. "Mr. Chen," one teacher asked, "how do you always have exactly what we need?" "Buddha provides," Robert said simply. "When we open our hands, the universe fills them." Robert had no family, no savings account, no possessions of value. But he had something most millionaires never find: peace. Every night before bed, Robert would kneel on his worn carpet and pray. "Dear Buddha, thank you for letting me be useful today. Thank you for giving me enough to share. Help me find more ways to serve tomorrow." For 40 years, this was Robert's life. Work, give, pray, sleep, repeat. People thought he was foolish. "You could have a nice car by now," neighbors would say. "A bigger apartment, a vacation." Robert would smile. "I have something better. I have enough." One Tuesday morning, Robert didn't show up for work. Mrs. Martinez found him 3 days later. He had died peacefully in his sleep, sitting upright in his meditation posture, hands folded, face wearing the most serene smile anyone had ever seen. "He looks happy," the paramedic said, confused. Like he was excited about something. When the apartment manager cleared Robert's belongings, they expected to find nothing of value. Instead, they found something extraordinary, a small wooden box carved with lotus flowers containing hundreds of thank you letters. From Frank, the homeless man. "Mr. Chen, because you fed me every day, I found the strength to get clean. I now work at a shelter feeding others like you fed me." From the children's hospital. "Your donations, though small, helped us buy a new heart monitor. A child died because of your $5. From former students, now adults. "You gave me lunch money when I was hungry. Now I'm a teacher and I help hungry kids just like you helped me." From teachers, "The supplies you bought helped me teach children to read." Some of them are letter after letter. Life after life changed because of Robert's giving. But there was one more thing in the box, a journal written in Robert's careful handwriting. The final entry, dated the night before he died: "Dear Buddha, tomorrow marks 40 years of giving. I am so grateful you chose me for this work. I have lived the richest life possible. Not because of what I own, but because of what I shared. If I die tonight, I die complete. I have given everything I could. I have loved without condition. I have served without counting the cost. Thank you for showing me that true wealth comes from empty hands and a full heart. At Robert's funeral, hundreds of people came. People he had fed, children he had helped, teachers whose classrooms he had supplied, strangers whose lives he had touched. Frank, the homeless man, spoke through tears. Robert saved my life every day for 20 years. He never asked for anything. He never preached. He just gave. Now I understand what he meant when he said Buddha provides. Buddha provided through Robert. A teacher stood up. Robert taught me more about education than any textbook ever could. He showed me that real teaching happens when you give from your heart. An elderly woman raised her hand. Robert helped me carry groceries for 30 years. Never asked for payment, just said Buddha blessed him with strong arms, so he wanted to share Buddha's blessing. The Buddha taught that dana, generosity, is the first step toward enlightenment. Not because giving earns us merit points, but because giving dissolves the illusion that we are separate. When we give, we discover that we are connected to everything, that another person's hunger is our hunger, that another person's joy is our joy. Robert understood something most people spend their whole lives missing. Happiness doesn't come from accumulating. It comes from circulating. Money is like water. When it flows, it brings life. When it stagnates, it becomes toxic. Robert kept his generosity flowing, and in return, life flowed through him with purpose and meaning. The smile on his face when he died wasn't mysterious. It was the natural expression of a life lived in alignment with love. He died knowing that his existence had mattered, that he had been a blessing, that his life had been a prayer in action. In Buddhism, we learn that what we give is what we receive. Not immediately, not always in the same form, but inevitably. Robert gave food and received nourishment for his soul. He gave money and received wealth beyond measure. He gave love and received a lifetime of meaning. The question isn't whether you have enough to give. The question is whether you understand what you're actually giving. When you give money, you're giving your time converted to currency. When you give time, you're giving pieces of your life. When you give attention, you're giving your presence. Robert gave everything he could and in return received everything that mattered. Today, 3 years after Robert's death, there's a small plaque in Lincoln Elementary School. It reads, "In memory of Robert Chen, who taught us that true wealth is measured not by what we keep, but by what we give away." But Robert's real monument isn't made of bronze. It's Frank, who now runs a homeless shelter. It's the children who learned to read with his donated supplies. It's the teachers who learned that education is an act of love. It's the hundreds of lives that are better because one man chose to give. If you're watching this and thinking, I don't have enough to give, remember Robert. He gave $5 at a time. Day-old bread, used books, attention to the invisible. The size of the gift matters less than the size of the heart giving it. If you're thinking, I'll give when I have more, remember Robert. He never waited for enough. He gave from not enough and discovered abundance. If you're thinking, my small contribution won't matter, remember the child whose life was saved by Robert's weekly $5 donations. Small acts of love, repeated consistently, create miracles. Here is what you can do today. Find one person who needs something you can provide. It doesn't have to be money. It could be time, attention, a smile, a phone call, a helping hand. Give it freely, without expectation, without keeping score. Notice how it feels. Notice how it changes you. Then do it again tomorrow. Share this story with someone who needs to remember that we all have something to give. Subscribe for more stories that remind us generosity is not what we do with our extra. It's what we do with our essence. And remember, dear soul, The Buddha taught that the hand that gives is always fuller than the hand that receives. Not because of magic, but because giving opens us to the infinite flow of love that wants to move through us all. Robert died smiling because he understood the secret. We are not here to accumulate. We are here to circulate. We are not here to hoard blessings. We are here to be blessings. What will you give today? Who will you bless? How will you let love flow through you? Your smile at the end depends on your generosity at the beginning. Start now. Buddha is waiting to work through your open hands.